Good evening, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Zada Kantabedian, and I formally want to invite everybody to the first ever running back versus game script YouTube video. All right. Welcome to my show. Welcome to this video. I'm going to show you guys what this report is all about. It's a very useful tool for fantasy players, dynasty players, redraft players. It doesn't matter what format you play on. This is a useful tool that helps us understand. It's just a piece of the puzzle, but it helps us understand how our running backs are being utilized in a per game in a game script scenario, in the context of game script, right? So I developed this because I could not find information on any of this stuff before the season began. So I decided to develop the charts and develop the model, and I have it here displayed for us to look at. This is Austin Walter versus GameScript Week 12. I've done other GameScript reports. I did one on Khalil Herbert, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell, Leonard Fournette. I haven't done one in a few weeks. I've been busy at work, but let's just jump into this. Let me show you what this is about. So this is Austin Walter versus GameScript Week 12. Now, Austin Walter was brought up from the practice squad of the New York Jets in lieu of Michael Carter's ankle injury. I guess he's on IR for 3 weeks. And Austin Walter came up on the practice squad and showed out pretty well. We'll talk about what we found. And this is a brief description of what it is. Running back versus game script is a regular season weekly report specifically designed to help us understand how our fantasy football running backs are used within different game script scenarios. In this weekly report, we will specifically be looking at snaps, utilization, and fantasy production on a per down basis in the context of GameScript. When considering the three categories of snaps, utilization, and fantasy point production, we can cross-reference them with each other to further understand where and how their production occurred. In addition, this report will further help us to understand coaching tendencies versus strong and weak run defenses going forward. So you'll find that intro and that basic summarization of what this report is about in the beginning of every single report to refresh and to welcome in new people. So we'll jump into the Week 12 report, right? Fun fact, of the three active Jets running backs, Austin Walter is the best comparison to Michael Carter than Tevin Coleman or Ty Johnson are. The question is, will the New York Jets begin to allow him to earn a respectable snap share that reflects that comparison? In Week 12, Walter was elevated from the New York Jets practice squad to serve as the number 3 running back behind Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. He ended up with 10 rushes for 38 yards and playing 24% of the offensive snaps. He also received 1 target for 0 yards. Zach Wilson threw it way over his head. Super easy. With Zach Wilson really disappointing this year. Austin Walter stands at 5'8", 202 pounds. That's the exact dimensions of Michael Carter. He has the same running style as Michael Carter. The stop-start kind of stays close to the offensive line. He has the same receiving chops as Michael Carter. Walter profiles a smaller running back on a good day. Walter profiles as a smaller running back, but on a good day, he can, I gotta edit that. I gotta take that part. He can slip tackles with his agility and is as stop-start as they come. Walter loves to plant and cut while in full stride. In addition, he's an accomplished receiver. And this guy did wonders at Rice as a receiver. He looked like a wide receiver at times, playing a lot of his snaps out of the slot. You can see he amassed 44 receptions for 525 yards in his final year in college and 2 touchdowns, right? Per PFF, snaps by position, Walter lined up as a receiver for 211 snaps, right? And played 168 of those snaps out of the slot. That's 80% of his snaps that he lined up as a receiver. He lined up 80% of the time as a slot receiver. All right, so we're just going to skip ahead and we're going to look at how his snaps broke down in the game, right? So here's a little chart of what we can. This is a chart that's specifically looking at his snaps, not his utilization or his fantasy points. This is strictly snaps, right? So what we have here is first down, second down, third down, fourth down. We have different score sequences. We have the first half, right? We have 0-0, 3-0, 3-7, 3-14, 11-14, 18-14, 21-14. It'll tell you how many snaps he played on first down, second down, and third down. He played no snaps in 0-0. We'll get into all that. He played 0 of 6 snaps, 0 of 3. It'll total each score sequence at the bottom, and it'll show you the percentage that he played at the bottom of each score sequence. Down here, it'll tell you the percentage he had within the half. You can see in the first half, while they were in a deficit, he had 12% snaps. He played 12% of the running back snaps, and in the second half, he played 32% of the running back snaps, right? So we see in week 12, Austin Walter saw a 24% snap share, which you'll find right here in the bottom corner. He saw 12% of the snaps in the first half. His first rush attempts came towards the end of the second quarter, which you'll see right here in the 3-14 score sequence. In the red zone, when the score was just 3-14, he saw 23% of his snaps during that specific. He saw 23% of the snaps during that specific drive, right? So he saw 3 snaps in the 3-14 score sequence and saw 23% of the snaps. 3 of 13, 23%, right? So that's when his feet first hit the turf, right? My throat's getting dry. Hold on, give me a second. I also got some preheated coffee I made for this video from this morning that went completely cold. All right, so that's what we see of Austin Walter, right? They were using, the majority of the time, they were using Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson a lot, right? But I think Ty Johnson, or Austin Walter, came on to replace Ty Johnson for a little while. And Ty Johnson is a very athletic running back. He's very good. I'm not speaking ill of him, but Austin Walter has a different skill set in his own right. So they brought on Austin Walter in this 3-14 game script scenario right here to play in the red zone, specifically between the 20 and the opponent's end zone. And he broke off a long run on that first attempt, and it was for 12 yards, I believe. Then he had another attempt inside the 5. Then this second down run right here was for a touchdown. That was on the goal line. That was within the final 2 minutes of the first half, right? So as we see, as they started to get a lead, Austin Walter's volume increased to 32% from 12% in the second half. So he went from 12 to 32%. He came out with 22% of the snaps when the score was 11-14 in the beginning of the second half, right? And then as they gained the lead, he saw 41% of the snaps on a specific drive when they were moving down the field. Or not all one single drive, but this is just altogether, when the score was 18-14, he saw a lot more snaps. So that's a promising sign. That tells us how they plan to use Austin Walter, right? So we saw them use him in the red zone a little bit right here as the first half closed out as a running back. He converted on his goal line carry, and they started to use him more naturally, as running backs should, when the Jets had the lead. All right. So we'll jump down to utilization versus game script, right? So let me explain this one to you. So again, same breakdown: first half, second half, score, right? Score sequences: first down, third down, fourth down. All right. So then it'll tell you right here: was he running? Was he rushing, running a route, or was he blocking? Right? And it'll do that for every score sequence, and we'll number how many times he did it on each down. Down here, you'll see total utilization per down. So he ran the ball 3 times, right? In the 3-14 score sequence, he ran a route 0 times, blocked 0 times. Obviously, it's all blank, so yeah. And I left out the other score sequences just to save space and just to reduce eye clutter, right? So it'll make it easier to digest. Here it shows the total runs per half. He had 3, right? 3 runs right here, 3 right here, 3 right here. Total routes 0. Total blocks 0. And going forward, I define blocks. I operationally define blocks as either straight up pass blocking, or while he's being used in the RPO where they don't option to go with a run, where the quarterback keeps it. The running back is just kind of running away, and he's just either picking up a block or distracting the defense. So I identify that as a block as well. All right, so back out of here. Okay, we see Walter was used as a runner on 71% of his snaps, right? So he had 14 snaps, and he was used as a runner on 10 of 59. So on 10 of 59 snaps, he was used as a runner. That was 17% of his 17% of the total snaps for the Jets. Austin Walter was used as a runner. On 1 On 0.01% of the snaps he ran a route, and on 0.05% he blocked, right? But he had 10 runs, right? We see that he had 10 runs right here. So of the 14, that's 71% of his snaps. So he was used primarily as a rusher. During the first half, he had only 3 rush attempts, which were all in the red zone. His rush attempts were then doubled in the second half, most likely because the Jets gained the lead. Naturally, he was asked to block or wasn't given the run option on RPOs on 3 snaps, right? So right here, those 3 snaps are right here, the blocks. He ran 1 route, a quick out, which was in the backfield. It was out of a 2-back set. They were using those 2-back sets. They're also called pony. They're also called pony packages, where they have the quarterback in the middle and they have 2 running backs. They have 1 running back on each side. Those are also called pony packages, right? So they used Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson several times throughout the game, and then they finally decided to use, I think it was Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson, or Austin Walter on one, where Austin Walter, they snapped the ball. Austin Walter leaked out to the left, and it was just kind of like exactly parallel, or like right parallel where Zach Wilson went, and Zach Wilson overthrew about like 3 feet. It was ridiculous. You see right here, he ran 1 route. I have a 2-back set behind the line of scrimmage. So, yeah. So that's his utilization right there, right? Primarily a rusher. 71% of his snap, 71% of the time during his snaps, he was used as a rusher, right? He wasn't really used as a receiver. But we saw during college that he was used as a receiver quite often. And if you go on YouTube and look at his YouTube videos and look at him in 2018 at Rice College, most of his highlight reels are comprised of receiving highlights. It's really cool, actually. He looks like a really good natural receiver. Fantasy points versus game script, right? So this is where we get into how his fantasy points accumulated. Again, same breakdown, right? First half score and score sequence. First down, second down, third down. I forgot to put fourth down here. Sorry. Okay, so we see right here on first down, right? And the 3 to 14, when it was 3 to 14, he accumulated 1.4 fantasy points on his rushes in that score sequence, right? So if you go back here, he ran it twice, 3 to 14. On those 2 runs, he accumulated 1.4 points, right? Then on that second down run, right here, that second down run, we go down here, 6.2 points. That is the run where he scored the touchdown out from 2 yards out from the goal line. So we see that his total points for that half, you add these 2 together, 7.6. Total rush points per half, 7.6. Total route points per half, 0, because he didn't get any receiving work during the first half, or really the second half, because he got missed on that 1 throw. We see here in the second half, he had 0.5 points in the 11 to 14 score sequence, right? If we go back to 11 to 14, we see that he had 2 runs, which equated to 5 yards, 0.5 points, right? Also, this is This is based on half-point PPR scoring. We see 18 to 14, he accumulated 2.5. It looks like it's 2.2 altogether, because he had 5 runs that went for 2.2 points. One was for negative 3 yards. And over here you see his total points per half, 2.7 with the 0.5. Total rush points, 10.3 for the game. That were his fantasy points. And over here you see his total points for each column, right? So his rush points for this column, 7.6. Route points, 0. Rush points, 0.4. Route points, 0. Okay? So we see all that right there. And then over here, so yeah, if we go back here, we see that most of his production, the majority of his production, was produced on that touchdown run. And then he was kind of like peppered in throughout the game for like minimal gains here and there. But I think he looked pretty good. And then over here, it's a cool little fun chart. We got Austin Walter's fantasy point distribution throughout the game. We see that the score sequence right here and the fantasy points right here. Score sequence 3 to 14, 11 to 14, 18 to 14, and you see how many points he accumulated in those different score sequences, right? So you see 7.6, 0.5 as they were still like kind of trailing, and then it would jump back up to 2.2. So conclusion, last week was a solid audition and showing for Austin Walter. He is a worthwhile stash for deep leagues or desperate 10, 12-person leagues. His skill set as a receiver can garner a path to increased touches in the future, especially since the Jets are nearly a lock to trail during all of their matchups. While I do not think that the coaches trust him in all phases of the game, Walter has proven on film that he has the vision to run out of various blocking schemes and is an accomplished receiving running back. do not expect him to leap either Tevin Coleman or Ty Johnson to snaps. I can see him, though, pushing this backfield into a more even timeshare for the duration of the time that Michael Carter is injured. Coleman only saw 45% of the snaps last week while earning 3 targets, right? So it's nothing huge. He didn't even have over 50% of the snaps. Ty Johnson saw 34% of the snaps with 1 target, right? So like almost the same, almost like 9% more than what Austin Walter had, a guy who was just elevated from the practice squad, and he got 1 target. And it seems as if Walter is nipping at the heels of these two backs, right? He could see added volume during a projected negative game script in Week 13 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Austin Walter played a solid amount of snaps in a game that they had the lead behind 2 accomplished running backs, right? I think he showed well. The coaches on that team know what he can do, know what he did in college. I think he's going to have a larger snap share this week against the Eagles, primarily as a receiver. Coleman and Johnson did not see that much more time than Austin Walter, right? We'll see what happens in a negative game script, but I'm betting I don't think it's a bad idea to play Austin Walter as a cheap DFS lottery ticket play. Now, if you need him in deeper leagues, go ahead and play him in deeper leagues as a flex wide receiver 3 or a desperation wide receiver 2. If your guys are on a bye or injured, go ahead and stick them in there and hope for another 10 points, right? So that was basically running back versus game script. It's my first video. I'm a little nervous talking to a screen that doesn't talk back to me, but I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a little numbery statistically. I'll try to be more humorous about this thing. But if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at ZKantzFF, ZKantzFF on Twitter. I work with PFF. I work with the Dynasty Nerds. I work with Yards Per Fantasy. And I am on the What the Fantasy podcast with my friend Brandon Hay. And you can look out for that podcast on YouTube or look for it in your streaming platforms. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.